From the Ministry of the Presidency in Georgetown, this is This Week with the President.
Welcome to this week's special edition of This Week with the President. On this week's program, we will take an in-depth look at the President's address to the members of the National Assembly at the opening of the 43rd session of the 11th Parliament on Thursday, where he outlined the government's developmental and legislative agenda for the new financial year. I'm your host, Gomiti Gangadin. In the highlights this week, safety and security of paramount importance. Green development is the way forward for economic growth. Immigration Department to be separated from police force, and the National Youth Policy gets Parliament's approval. These stories and more on This Week with the President. Do stay with us. Security and the safety of the Guyanese citizens have always been one of the top priorities of the David Granger administration. While the administration must tackle entrenched criminal activity after years of neglect in the security sector, some gains have been made in the apprehension of dangerous criminals. However, that is not enough, and President Granger continues to lead the National Security Committee in the devising of strategies that will see immediately medium-term and long-term changes and a safer Guyana for all Guyanese and visitors. There has already been the implementation of Operation Dragnet and Operation Safeway, the increased training of the Guyana Police Force, boosting of the Criminal Investigations Division, the reintroduction of mounted police, aerial surveillance, and the soon-to-be implemented United Kingdom Security Sector Reform Action Plan. This has resulted in some reduction in crime, with statistics showing reduced crime over consecutive periods when compared to the same time last year. It has also resulted in the solving of some cold cases. But while arrests and swift moves to prosecute those accused have been emphasized, much more needs to be done to have a safe nation.
Your government intends to make Guyana safe for this and future generations. We will do so not only by combating crime and criminals, but by combating the causes of crime and its links with international and transnational crime. We established a National Security Committee. We're in the process of establishing a new National Anti-Narcotics Agency to address the mother of all crimes, the trafficking in narcotics. We will establish a new National Intelligence and Security Agency to ensure better surveillance of our borders and our coasts. We have made a decision also to re-engage the United Kingdom with a view to restoring the aborted Security Sector Reform Action Plan. That plan will commence soon with the arrival of experts from the United Kingdom to advise us on the crafting of a national strategy to respond to domestic and transnational crime, including narcotics trafficking and gun running.
Guyana cannot afford to play politics with crime. Instead, the President believes that a collaborative effort that focuses on the root causes of crime and its effects is needed. An examination of the past 2 decades shows that violent crimes have become an endemic, and the causes for this are related to what can be called a secondary wave of crime.
The Troubles will be remembered as the darkest hour in our history. It was a time of the uninvestigated assassination of a minister, of the investigation into the alleged implication of another minister in the direction of a death squad, of the alleged implication of yet another minister in the acquisition of a computer to track the telephone communication and location of adversaries targeted for assassination. It was a time of arbitrary arrests, of disappearances, of torture of young men, of the surge in armed robbery, of narco trafficking and gun running. During that first deadly decade, there were 1,317 murders and 7,865 armed robberies, 2 armed robberies a day.
The president believes that the troubled times in the 2000s have left an imprint on the minds who bore witness to the many tragedies and chaos which have marked that period of time in Guyana and that affects Guyana to this day.
The evidence of the impact of the man-made criminal crisis is still visible. The damage is most manifest in the demoralization of the public and security services, in the erosion of public trust, and the lowering of the quality of life. The grisly security situation was accompanied by a more perilous economic situation.
While the government is examining means of curbing crime, there are several systems which have already been put in place to ensure that there is greater efficacy among the security forces. The president has in the past said that the resources currently available to law enforcement agencies are not sufficient to patrol every kilometer of the country's borders and ports. However, government, cognizant of the need for additional resources, have begun to acquire the equipment necessary to aid the fight against narco trafficking and other forms of illegal activity.
We do not have the resources, the assets. We do not have the aircraft to patrol our borders. We do not have the ships to patrol our sea space. We do not have the vehicles to control the land space to bring these crimes to an end.
More than this, however, the government will be tackling other forms of crimes such as the unlawful expropriation of state assets, while it seeks to fortify the justice system by the decree of 3 important pieces of legislation.
Our government in this regard is committed to promoting standards of probity in public office. We will ensure also that those who unlawfully expropriate state property are brought to justice. We will ensure the recovery of stolen state assets. We will amend the Integrity Commission Act, which will provide for a revised code of conduct for public officials, inter alia. The State Assets Recovery Bill will establish a state asset recovery agency to recover state property that has been unlawfully acquired through civil proceedings. The Justice Administration system will be fortified by the promulgation of 3 important pieces of legislation. The Witness Protection Bill will give effect to the Caribbean Community's agreement establishing the Regional Justice Protection Program, which came into force in 2006. The bill provides for the establishment of a program to protect certain witnesses and other persons. The Protected Disclosures Bill, referred to as the Whistleblowers Bill, aims at combating corruption and other wrongdoing by encouraging and facilitating persons to make disclosures of improper conduct.
With an oil future expected, safety and security are now even more critical, not just to attract investors, but to ensure that their investments are protected. And President David Granger intends to ensure that this becomes a reality. A good life for all Guyanese have been President David Granger's mantra even before he assumed office in May 2015. For the president, every Guyanese deserves a life in which all basic needs are adequately met and public services and infrastructural developments are of high quality and standards. Government plays an instrumental role in helping Guyanese to achieve this life, and it is with this in mind that the administration began putting systems in place to provide this quality of life to Guyanese. This, however, has not been without its struggles, as the president told the members of parliament at the opening of the 43rd session of the sitting of the 11th Parliament.
Your government entered a depressing financial landscape in May 2015. The economic legacy that this nation inherited was characterized by a lack of strategic planning and whimsical decision-making. The absence of a policy to provide employment opportunities for youth and to reduce extreme poverty, and the failure to energize the manufacturing sector weakened our economy. Economic mismanagement was accompanied by huge debts for unpaid international obligations and court judgments. The most grave financial problem was the bankruptcy of the Guyana Sugar Corporation, which owed $89 billion in debt. That's billion. Your government was forced to divert money from economic development and social programs to rescue the ailing corporation with an immediate injection of $12 billion. An additional $11 billion had to be provided the next year, 2016, making a total of $23 billion bailout in 18 months. Paddy farmers in the rice industry were not spared the previous administration's reckless mismanagement. The Petro-Caribbean Fund, used to meet payments to farmers for rice and paddy shipped to Venezuela, contained less than $1 million in May 2015. Your government once again was forced to make available nearly $4 billion immediately so that poor paddy farmers could be paid.
Even though this was all inherited, the government is determined to provide a higher quality of life to the Guyanese. This has already begun. In 2015, despite encountering this immense mountain of debt, the government was able to meet commitments to the nation's hard-working public servants. The minimum wage grew from $39,520 in May 2015 to $55,000 in January 2016, an increase of 39.2% in 7 months.
Public servants have benefited in addition from the raising of the tax threshold from $600,000 in May 2015 to $660,000 in January 2016. They have benefited from the removal of income tax from workers' contribution to the National Insurance Scheme and a tax-free payment of $50,000 to all workers earning less than $500,000 in December 2015. These benefits taken together augmented workers' disposable income significantly. Collective bargaining with public service unions could result in yet more benefits in the form of increased increments, allowances, and adjustments made for debunching. Old age pensions have been increased from $13,120 to $18,200, or 38.7%, and public assistance increased by 24% during the same period. That is May 2015 to April 2016.
Critical to Guyana's economic development is the push for major public infrastructural works, which aims to connect the hinterland communities to the coastline.
Your government will intensify its improvements of aerodromes, of bridges, roads, and stellings in order to enhance communication between the hinterland and coastline. We will begin negotiations with national and international partners to build a permanent bridge across the Essequibo River in 2017.
To further boost economic development, the government will be aiming to remove bottlenecks to the implementation of infrastructural projects by establishing planning units within all ministries. In addition to this, the government has committed to strengthening the national procurement procedures to address the institutional deficiencies which led to poor implementation and monitoring of public infrastructural projects.
Public contracts are a key concern of our administration. We will seek international support to streamline our procurement systems and methodologies within ministries and budget agencies. A bid review committee has already been established and has begun to work. The Public Procurement Commission will soon be brought into existence to improve the integrity of public procurement.
Information and communication technology plays a critical role in the economic development of any country. From education to agriculture to the sciences, it is necessary. It is for this reason that the Ministry of Public Telecommunications was established. President Granger hopes that with the advancements of the ICT agenda of the government, economic development will be further achieved.
We will extend telecommunication services to all 10 regions. The governance program will eventually network all government agencies and will facilitate efficient data sharing between those agencies. This network will then be extended to citizens so that they can access government services online. Information communication technology is integral to our green agenda. It will become a major driver of economic diversification. Internet connectivity of government buildings will be extended. Every government building, every airport, every hospital, every market, every police station, every post office, every school, and right here in the National Assembly will have access to the internet in coming years.
With the 2016 budget slated to be presented in December, it is also expected that it will be guided by the objectives of economic growth, fiscal sustainability, institutional sustainability, and environmental sustainability. The pursuit of a green agenda will also lend itself to Guyana's economic development plans. The president anticipates that in the coming months, as Guyana makes way with its green developmental agenda, other sectors will boom, thereby boosting the economy. In addition to that, as the country prepares for its oil and gas future, the president is optimistic that this, added to the investments which will come as a result, will create the economy Guyana aims to achieve, thereby providing a better quality of life for all Guyanese.
The emergence of a petroleum sector, however, will not derail our march towards establishing a green state. We are wedded irrevocably to that mission.
Recognizing that, though small, Guyana has vast areas of untouched, pristine rainforest, President Granger has promoted Guyana as a consistent partner in the fight against climate change. But more than using its forests, Guyana needs to adopt sustainable and eco-friendly plans and projects which will ultimately put the country on the path to becoming a green state, and President Granger intends that this will become a reality.
But we are here today to celebrate this center, Iwokrama International Center for Rainforest Conservation and Development. We're here because Iwokrama is in the center of Guyana. And Guyana is in the center of the Guyana Shield. And the Guyana Shield is bigger than Greenland. The Guyana Shield is perhaps the single largest area of unspoilt biodiversity on planet Earth. I call it the second Garden of Eden.
President Granger told the members of Parliament that a green pathway is being pursued to achieve that higher quality of life for all Guyanese, even as Guyana provides a service to the world as part of the lungs of the earth.
Guyana's Green Agenda is a comprehensive multi-sectoral development program. It is not limited narrowly to low-carbon initiatives, but it is a broad-based development program which incorporates the management of our unique biodiversity, the management of our vulnerable coastal zone and our valuable protected areas, and the management of solid waste and sanitation.
But more than this, it is a win-win situation for Guyana, the president believes, as with a green agenda and environmental sustainability comes green economic development, sectors which will transform Guyana's economy by providing employment and generating revenue.
Guyana's green agenda will promote green economic sectors, such as the development of climate-resilient agriculture, ecotourism, and information community technology. It will promote renewable energy generation. It will ensure a diversified and resilient economy while promoting green growth, green employment, and a secure and healthy environment for future generations.
At the heart of Guyana's green agenda and proposed green development is the Iwakrama International Center for Rainforest Conservation and Development, which was accorded to the international community the use of 371,000 hectares of our forests for research into the sustainable management of forest resources. President Granger, in his address to the United Nations General Assembly last month, had highlighted the importance of the Iwakrama Center and the extensive flora and fauna possessed by the country. He again highlighted the center's critical role in Guyana becoming a green state, with the hope of raising awareness and possible funding.
The Iwakrama International Center for Rainforest Conservation and Development remains in the vanguard of our campaign to conserve our forests, to counter the adverse effects of climate change, and to conduct research into our rich biodiversity. Iwakrama will be the site during the next financial year for the establishment of an international institute for biodiversity. That institute will allow local, regional, and international students to come here to do research into our rich and diverse flora and fauna. We will set aside also an additional 2 million hectares of forests and wetlands for conservation in accordance with the commitments we made under the Paris Agreement on climate change.
Even as it pursues this biodiversity center, the government will be placing heavy emphasis on curbing the environmental degradation caused by reckless logging and mining. Loggers and miners will be under a legal obligation to ensure sound environmental practices, while the government will seek to reboot the fledgling ecotourism sector in 2017. As government prepares to present its 2017 budget in December, it is expected that measures targeting renewable energy generation and improved energy efficiency, key initiatives of the green agenda, will be included.
The green state that we envisage will ensure that we bequeath to our children and grandchildren a secure and safe future and a higher quality of life. The green pathway to development will allow for us to sustain growth, to generate new sectors, and to provide additional jobs. It will allow us to build a more resilient and diversified economy, to promote human development, to reduce inequalities, and ensure the safety, security, and well-being of the citizens of our country.
Upon his assumption to office in May 2015, President David Granger created the Ministry of Citizenship within the Ministry of the Presidency and appointed former Commissioner of Police Mr. Winston Felix as the Minister of Citizenship. The minister was given the responsibility for immigration services, citizenship, register birth and deaths, and naturalization. This decision was couched in the President's belief that any modern society must move towards efficient and technologically advanced means of managing this sector. Further, immigration policies must fall in line with the nation's developmental agenda. This meant that the portfolio no longer fell under the Ministry of Home Affairs as was previously structured. This move is intended to ensure that adequate oversight is given to the processes of these agencies to ensure transparency, accountability, better management of the movement of persons across the country's borders, and greater efficiency in making these services available to the people. This will be boosted with the tabling and passage of the Immigration Amendment Bill, which will be brought before the House in this session of the 11th Parliament.
Your government will seek also to improve the efficacy and efficiency of our immigration services by tabling the Immigration Amendment Bill to delink the Immigration Department from the Guyana Police Force. The National Registration Amendment Bill will guard against identity theft by allowing for inclusion of biometrics of citizens to be recorded on their national registration cards.
So far, The Ministry of Citizenship has been embarking on several initiatives which are aimed at making these services more easily available to the Guyanese public. Already, there are offices in the East Berbice Quarantine and the Upper Demerara Berbice regions which have seen persons being able to apply for and uplift birth and death certificates and passports right in their regions. It is the government's plan to ensure that these services is extended to every region, since President David Granger believes that it is a fundamental right of all Guyanese to access public services right in their geographical locations. Professionalism, efficiency, and impartiality must become three hallmarks of the public service sector in Guyana. This has always been the push of President Granger since his assumption to office in May 2015. The provision of quality public service is important and forms a major part of the well-being of citizens and communities, and it is therefore critical that these are easily available so that the lives of all Guyanese can be significantly improved. With this aim in mind, President Granger on Thursday told members of the National Assembly that his administration is committed to ensuring that the quality of public service is improved and that access to public services are decentralized across the nation in the near future.
This initiative has its genesis in His Excellency's concept of providing government services in the towns. It is his view that government services should be delivered in the townships created, thereby avoiding unnecessary traveling to Georgetown to conduct simple business with a government agency. It is in this regard that the Department of Citizenship, operating out of the Ministry of the Presidency, has taken His Excellency's initiative a stage further.
Efforts to decentralize public services can be seen in some initiatives that have already been implemented. In August, the Upper Demerara Berbice region became the first to offer passport application services through an initiative by the Department of Citizenship aimed at decentralizing such services to all the regions across the country. Minister of Citizenship, Mr. Winston Felix, said that efforts to extend this initiative to all other regions are underway. The e-government agency is also working with several ministries to create an interconnected e-government network where information can be shared among government agencies across the country. A platform of this program allows for several services, such as the application of a birth certificate, passport, checking on the status of documents, and other related services. The delivery of the services must also be done in a professional and efficient manner, as the President had noted that this is vital to the smooth running of any country. He described the public service as the engine of the executive, which must be efficient if services such as housing, education, law and order, and infrastructure are to be made available. But the engine needs oil, the President says, and that oil must be in the form of enhanced training, improved working conditions, and better wages and salaries. He stated that the establishment of the Public Service Staff College will also allow for public officials to be better equipped to ensure quality and timely delivery of public goods and services. The President added that attention will also be paid to filling human resource deficits, particularly in our rural and hinterland regions. As the future leaders of our country, the nation's youth can be seen as one of the most important groups in society and must therefore be equipped with the adequate resources to be able to march into the future to take up the role of leadership. Yet, the youth of Guyana are also one of the most vulnerable groups in society and are constantly at risk of unemployment, underemployment, crime and violence, teen and unplanned pregnancy, and other social and economic ills. It is with this steadfast commitment to tackle these issues and create a better life for our youth that a National Youth Policy was last Thursday passed in the National Assembly. The National Youth Policy has been a burning issue in government's agenda as it seeks to solve many of the problems affecting Guyana's youth. During his address at the opening of the 11th Parliament in June last year, the President pledged that his government will introduce social policies that will harness and develop the creative energies of the people, which will provide a foundation for the holistic development of the country's men and youth.
We shall introduce social policies that will harness and develop the creative energies of our people and that will support the holistic development of our women and our youth. Your government is aware that too many very young and very old persons are still classified as extremely poor, with an expenditure level that is far below what is required to purchase a minimum daily low-cost diet. Poverty can be reduced and perhaps eventually eradicated with good governance and the sensible public policies that we shall introduce. The fight against poverty cannot be won through charitable handouts alone. Neither will trickle-down economics be the panacea for pauperization and privation. Providing jobs for our people, particularly our young people, will be one of our priorities. Today in our country, there's a crisis of youth unemployment. Many of our young people are leaving school and university, but are unable to find jobs. Without jobs, they will never be able to escape from the cycle of poverty.
Government therefore saw it as utmost priority to pass this legislation at the 43rd sitting of the National Assembly last Thursday. Minister within the Ministry of Education, Ms. Nicolette Henry, in her presentation described the policy as resolute and innovative and one which the youth can claim ownership on as it involves their input.
That this policy is based on the concept that in order to empower young people, you have to engage in training for employment and training for entrepreneurship. The National Youth Policy caters for the development of a National Youth Empowerment Action Plan, which will include comprehensive and strategic programs and projects to be implemented.
The National Youth Policy 2015 was initially laid in the National Assembly on June 30th. The document outlines 5 key priorities: youth identity and empowerment, youth employment and entrepreneurship, education and market-driven skills development, youth leadership, participation and representation, and youth health, safety and well-being. The policy will pave the way for the subsequent development and implementation of a National Youth Empowerment Action Plan, NYEAP. Presidential Advisor on Youth Empowerment, Mr. Aubrey Norton, who was instrumental in the composition of the policy, said that the elements aim to create entrepreneurs through methods of training and education.
The general position that is taken is that for you to empower people, you need to either educate them for employment or educate them for business. The youth policy takes that into consideration and identify a number of strategic areas and priorities that it will address.
Between 2013 and 2014, more than 3,000 youth were engaged through regional consultations and a National Youth Forum, which was held in 2014. In 2015, additional surveys and interviews were conducted from 52 youth organizations to identify issues affecting youth, identify entry points for youth development, and to elaborate on existing youth development opportunities. The data gathered was analyzed and published in the Situational Analysis of Youth in Guyana 2015 and led to the development of a draft youth policy, which was further shared with several stakeholders. The feedback gathered was added to this draft policy. And with that, we have come to the end of this week's special edition of This Week with the President. Thank you for joining me. For regular updates on the Ministry of the Presidency, please go to our website at www.motp.gov.gy, like our Facebook page at Ministry of the Presidency, and follow us on Twitter and Instagram at MOTP Guyana. To have a safe and productive rest of the week, goodbye.